I'm pretty sure you heard your camera make this noise like 1,000 times, but do you actually know what happens? So we already learned what ISO does and are now moving on to another pillar of photography, the shutter. If you've already played around with it, by now you might know that depending on how long you open your shutter, you will have less or more light and less or more motion blur. The shutter is a mechanical part of your camera. It literally goes up and down depending on the shutter speed you set on your camera. The longer it's open, the more light gets in and vice versa. There are two so-called curtains that basically are your shutter. The longer those are open, the more light gets in, and if you happen to move your camera, you will get motion blur. So let me try to explain why this happens. If the curtain's open and the object you're photographing is moving, it's like a bunch of pictures happening in one. That's why in long exposure, if you sit still in the beginning and start moving towards the end of the exposure, you will appear ghost-like on your image. If you set the shutter speed to a lower number, you will get the opposite effect. You will be freezing that one motion you're capturing. On that note, let's talk about the numbers. The numbers actually represent seconds. So a long shutter speed will be like 3 seconds and you will have a little 3 on your screen. That literally means your shutter will be open for 3 seconds. I said 3 a lot there. And if you go to a lower number, meaning 1/200th or 1/400th, this will be a smaller number, but at the same time, your shutter is only open for that amount of time, meaning it's really quick and allows you to capture motion better. So how should you use your shutter speed? As so often, that depends on what you're up to. Generally, for everyday photography, you should be fine around 1/200th. Tweak it down if you need more light or up if you need less of it. But be careful, if you shoot at a low rate like 1/50th, you will probably get some motion blur even from your camera shake. A rule of thumb for videography is to set your shutter twice the FPS because it guarantees the most natural motion blur. What does it mean? If you shoot with 25 frames per second, you should set your shutter to 1/50th. For action photography, I highly recommend setting your shutter higher or even using your high shutter speed functions on your camera. For astrophotography and dreamy waterfall pictures or generally dreamy water pictures, you will need long exposure and a good tripod, and you will either use a timer or a remote, and make sure that your camera is not even moving an inch when you start the exposure. If you are interested in astrophotography, let me know in the comments and I will make sure to post a video about this here on my channel. And with that, you have just learned something new about your shutter, at least I hope so. If not, let me know in the comments. That would be sad. And in my next video, I'm going to talk about aperture, so if you're interested, make sure to subscribe. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.